Welcome back. On this week's installment of Audio Architecture, I'm going to go over the science of sound and the basics of acoustics. So let's dive right in. Determining the quality of sound transmitted into a room or space is called acoustics. Understanding the sonic characteristics of a room will result in better decision-making when recording or mixing. Finding the right materials to treat your room is an important step before you start recording. Different surfaces and materials affect the acoustics of a room in various ways. Too much of one type applied to the wall can be destructive to the sound. Now on the flip side, not enough reflective or absorption material can cause problems within the studio. Professional recording studios are typically constructed with many types of materials. With combinations of wood, carpet, brick, and stone, studios use multiple surfaces to get the best possible sound for their space. For example, if a room is carpeted from floor to ceiling, the room might sound dead or dark. Carpet does an exceptional job at absorbing higher frequencies and minimizing hard reflections. However, it doesn't do much for treating long, low-end waves. Professional recording spaces are rarely perfect squares and rarely have low ceilings, so this isn't like your typical bedroom or office space. Even if you don't know how to treat your space, don't worry about hiring a professional to set up your studio's acoustics. Knowing your space will allow you to predict the way a mix might sound through other audio systems. When a sound strikes a wall, a ceiling, or any object, there is a reflection angle that is created. The surface material determines the amount of energy reflected or absorbed. This happens with all materials, but having sound treatments will help the acoustical characteristics of the room. Absorption is the inverse of reflection and is the process in which acoustic energy is reduced as a sound wave passes through a medium or strikes a surface. The ability for sound to bend around other objects and reform itself is called diffraction. Bass frequencies are great at this because the shape of the sound wave is larger and there's more velocity, unlike higher frequencies, which are a lot weaker. Diffusion is a great way to control reflections and standing waves. Standing waves are created by parallel surfaces and can cause acoustical problems, such as a level boost or cut of frequencies, or the creation of resonant frequencies in a room. Standing waves or resonant frequencies are simply sound waves reflected back and forth between parallel surfaces over and over again. Over time, they build on top of each other, which may cause the illusion of unwanted frequencies in a mix. You may edit out those frequencies in a mix, only to find out that it was the acoustical properties in the room that was causing the imbalance the whole time. If you've ever sung in a bathroom, you may have noticed how a particular frequency resonates in the room. Standing waves create this resonance. Most people find out where they messed up after listening to their mix through different speakers, away from the space with standing waves. Usually, it's some bass frequencies that are missing from the mix. Standing waves are usually found in the lower range of the frequency spectrum. Diffusers help break up standing waves, as they reflect sound at a wider angle than, say, parallel walls, helping you perceive the sound accurately in the mix. There are a variety of proper acoustic treatments right here in the Noiz Factory that I want to show you today. Let's take a look at a few of these examples. As I said before, studios are rarely perfect squares with low ceilings. This facility doesn't have many parallel surfaces. The Noiz Factory was constructed with a narrow front and a wider base, as well as higher slanted ceilings to avoid standing waves. Different wall dimensions aren't the only form of treatment you should have at your studio. You need some way to absorb frequencies so that they don't run wild in the room. We have acoustic panels spread throughout the live room and the control room. For example, these clouds help out with the echoes reflected throughout the space. However, if there are too many panels placed side by side, it can adversely affect your room, causing it to sound dead or dark. The same rule applies for all types of absorption material. There are some cases where you want a darker sounding room in order to create a sound that can be treated later on in the mixing process with time-based effects, such as reverb and delay. This is why we use other absorption material in the vocal booth and amp rooms, such as wood, carpet, and foam. We do this in order to capture the dead sound without reverberation so that we can alter the sound the way we want to later on. These are gobos, and gobos are essentially a portable shield used to mask a microphone from any unwanted noise during a recording session. We use them as customizable absorption material to color the sound during a session. Carpet can be a useful tool as well, but just like any other material, be sure not to overdo it and don't cover everything in carpet. Perhaps the most important element of acoustic treatment to add to a space is bass traps. Bass frequencies can be problematic, and putting these panels in the corners of your room could save you time and save the sound. Be sure to look into diffusers, for they are also important forms of acoustic treatment. Not only can they evenly scatter sound reflections to enhance the overall ambience of the room, which ultimately makes a wider sounding space, but they also alleviate flutter echo and slapback delay. There is a difference between applying acoustical treatment and soundproofing something, which is much more difficult. Soundproofing involves completely isolating the sound so it doesn't escape the room. It is much more complex and expensive to soundproof an already constructed space versus pre-planning your soundproofing ahead of time before the room is built. Acoustic treatment involves making a room sound better. It is much easier and cheaper to add these treatments to an already constructed space. This may involve minor construction, but not to the degree of soundproofing a studio. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week on Audio Architecture.